Hey my friends, how's it going? It's Ultimus, and for today's video we're going to be talking about the upcoming changes to Demon Hunters, specifically the Havoc spec coming up in patch 7.1.5. Now again, most of this is going to be from a PvP perspective, but of course we'll touch a little bit on PvE as well. I do have to say that I am not an expert on Demon Hunters. I've just recently been playing one. I got it leveled up. It was my first alt that I leveled up in Legion. I've been having a blast on mine. I've gotten her fairly geared. Again, not great gear, but considering I've only been playing her seriously for about a week, up to 852. So I've had a good time with it. A lot of fun. But I feel like I do have a decent understanding of the class, how it works. So we're going to talk about some of the spell changes, talents, and PvP talents. And I always say this, but we're going to try to do it this time. We're going to try to keep this short, sweet, and to the point. And of course, we'll see how well we do. Anyways, let's move right along here. We're going to talk about some of the talents and abilities that are no longer going to be in the game or that are going to be changed. It's very well known that Demon Hunters excel hardcore in AoE. AoE fights, king of the meters. Like, they are gods when it comes to AoE damage in raids and even in PvP, arena cleaves, all that kind of stuff like that. They do amazing. That's where they shine. Their single target has... it's left a lot to be desired. We could say that. So, some of the stuff that's going to be changing with Demon Hunters is we have, as our talent, Blind Fury. I-Beam generates 35 Fury every second, and its duration is increased by 50%. The generating Fury has been added, which is kind of nice. Now it turns your I-Beam into a Fury generator, which is kind of cool. I do like that a little bit. It gives you some options for sure. I still like Fell Mastery personally, but I do like the Blind Fury as an alternative for sure. Next big one for sure is Chaos Cleave. Chaos Cleave is changing. Basically, originally, like on live right now in 7.1, it's hits an additional target for 50% damage. The new version of Chaos Cleave is going to strike or hit all nearby enemies for an additional 25% damage. So even more AoE buffs. Whether or not that will change Bloodlet being the best in slot talent, I don't know. I'm not comfortable enough to say, and I still feel like it's a little... still like too early to tell, just because we don't actually have a date for 7.1.5 yet. But I could see this being a good contender, especially in good AoE fights and stuff like that. I do like Bloodlet for the mechanic, though. I like having the bleed, especially and specifically in a PvP scenario. I do like the bleed, especially on rogues, is the big deal. Rogues and feral druids, and it does have its applications in PvE as well, being able to like keep dots on the target and run away for a little bit. So you're still able to keep damage up. But you're able to keep going away from the target, so you're, it's a little bit of a survivability mechanic that I kind of like. We have Netherwalk, Desperate Instincts, and Soul Rending. Neither of those are really changing a whole lot there. Momentum stays the same. Fell Eruption stays the same. I think... Actually, Fell Eruption's damage has been buffed a little bit. I do have some of the patch notes over here comparing these spells, so that way I don't have to try to remember all this stuff off the top of my head. Fell Eruption's damage is being buffed a little bit, and then Nemesis now is up from 20% inflicted against the target to 25%, which is kind of nice. I still like the way that works mechanically, but it's not as good as Momentum for any situation, actually, PvP and PvE. It's just Momentum is great. And then Fell Barrage as well as being buffed as well. Up from 250% damage basically to 300% damage, but we see that as numbers there. Maximum 5 chargers, all that kind of stance. So some decent buffs coming along, and I'm sure the buffs really more so are just to adjust with gear changes and stuff like that. As gear is scaling, damage needs to scale up a little higher as well. So I wouldn't freak out too much, but it is nice to see Demon Hunters getting a little bit of a buff, and so hopefully that, of course, helps them out in the long run, especially because I play one, so I want to see them do well. First Blood is getting a little bit of a buff here as well. Basically, it used to be... basically, the damage is being buffed. I don't know, I'm not familiar with how the math works off the top of my head, so I'm not going to try to fake it. But it is getting a buff to that damage that's used against the first target, so kind of cool. Might make me consider it as a talent just to kind of take a look, especially in BGs. Might be kind of fun just to mess around with, stuff like that. Try some different builds. Netherwalk has been changed in that it has been upped from a 1.5 minute cooldown to a 2-minute cooldown. But what's also interesting about this, if I'm not mistaken, is Blur is one of our big defensive cooldowns as a Demon Hunter. Netherwalk used to replace Blur. Now Netherwalk no longer replaces Blur. So that is a huge deal. So while it is on a 2-minute cooldown, it does offer some nice survivability as well to Demon Hunters, because that's been the biggest struggle with Demon Hunters, has been survivability in PvE and PvP. Very, very little survivability. So what they did is they changed soul rending from 100% leech in Metamorphosis, which is fair. Like, that was a very, very strong. Like, you were basically unkillable unless you got some good chain CC going on there as a Demon Hunter. In Metamorphosis, you were basically unkillable and your damage was insane. Very cool as a Demon Hunter, but very frustrating to play against. So they've changed that, taken away 30% of the healing from that, which 70% is still amazing, phenomenal, especially if you're getting good cleave fights. And they've changed Netherwalk again. So 2-minute cooldown now instead of a 1.5 minutes, but they've made it to where it no longer replaces Blur. So that's a big deal. I could actually see Netherwalk being a bigger deal in PvP. Then PvE, though, I could still see PvE being a big deal as well. But I really like that we're getting Netherwalk, and I'll probably be trying that out for the first couple weeks or so once 7.1.5 goes live, just to try it out. First impressions are I like it mechanically. I like that it was changed. It replacing Blur in the first place felt a little clunky to me, and it felt like it took away more than it added. So I'm happy to see that change coming in. So that's pretty much it, really, more or less, for the actual talents themselves. Now let's flip over and talk about the PvP talents here. Alright, so now that we got our honor talents up, we've got the previous set of honor talents up, so we're looking at here on screen in-game 7.1.5 honor talents. We're going to take a look at what we got here. So, so Gladiator's Medallion, So Gladiator's Medallion, Adaptation, Relentless are remaining in, staying the same. Hardiness, Reinforced Armor, Sparring are the same. Solitude, Glimpse, and Cover of Darkness are about the same. That's correct. Glimpse, automatically retreat. Yeah, so those are staying the same. Unending Hatred is basically staying the same as well. Anytime you're a victim of a magical effect, you gain 10 Fury. It's actually being buffed, so same effect, buffed a little bit. So instead of 5 Fury, 10 Fury. A little bit more Fury generation is always good. Very similar to Arms Warriors in the sense that it, whenever you're the victim of a non-periodic damage attack, you gain some rage. So there's that. Reverse Magic looks like it's staying about the same. 1 minute cooldown, 10 yards. Cool. So still a pretty cool talent. All that. Eye of Leothras. Same, about 45-second cooldown, 45-second cooldown. The effect has been buffed, though. It's 4% currently on live. It will be going up to 6% now, so you keep a watchful eye over the enemy. Whenever they cast a harmful spell, they suffer 6% of their health and shadow damage, and refresh the duration of Eye of Leothras by last 6 seconds. So the damage that you do overall is being increased, and again, I think that's to kind of address first off some single target damage, but also just as gear is going to be getting better to balance all of that out as well. So not a whole lot of changes coming into those first few choices there in the first 3 or 4 tiers, but when we get down into these last ones, these last 2 tiers here are really where the changes are going to start coming in. We're looking at Demonic Origins replacing Awaken the Demon Within. So Awaken the Demon Within, as it is now on live, is if you reach 50% health, you automatically gain Metamorphosis for 6 seconds. The effect has a 1 minute cooldown. In addition, the duration of Metamorphosis will be refreshed up to a maximum of 6 seconds while at or below 20% health. So that's what it is on live, and now going into 7.1.5, we have Demonic Origins, which basically the cooldown of Metamorphosis is reduced by 2 minutes, but now lasts 15 seconds. While not in Metamorphosis, your damage is increased by 10%. So, very cool. Very, very cool. Again, this is a little bit of an answer to Demon Hunter's single target damage, because it's just flat damage buff 10%. Everything. 10%. So, currently, with Artifacts, we have... with again Unleashed Demons fully decked out, rank 3 out of 3. That's not even counting if you've broken the limit on it at all. We've got Metamorphosis down to a 4 minute cooldown. So with this one potentially we've got Metamorphosis down to a 2 minute cooldown. And so how long does it even last? Let's find out. I don't even remember. This is probably something I should actually know. So it lasts a full 30 seconds. So it cuts the duration in half. I really should know how long that lasts. That's actually kind of embarrassing. I swear I played Demon Hunter before. So we've got Metamorphosis. Cooldown's reduced by 2 minutes. Lasts 15 seconds shorter, so cooldown reduced by half, but as well as the effect. So still, that's some big damage, though. And more consistently, too. And then your flat-out just damage while not in Metamorphosis goes up by 10%. Big deal to me, at least. So that one is going to be a strong contender. That's one I'm going to be looking at playing for sure, because it does address, not specifically, but very indirectly, it addresses the Demon Hunter single target damage issue. So that, from a PvP standpoint, is very, very cool. Now we have Mana Rift, which is a new talent coming in, as opposed to Rushing Vault. Rushing Vault previously simply was using Vengeful Retreat grants a charge of Fell Rush. Kind of cool. Fell Rush is a big deal. It helps you stay on top of targets. It helps you escape. It's literally your attack or defense kind of setup for Demon Hunters. But now we're getting Mana Fury. It is on a 9.13 second cooldown, as you know, per my gear. As you can see my stats over here. You manifest a 6-yard wide mana rift under the feet of the target. After 1.5 seconds, it erupts, dealing 8% of enemies' maximum health and chaos damage, and destroys 8% of the enemy's total mana if present. Like, one of my favorite game mechanics of all time, and out of all the spells that have ever been removed from World of Warcraft, the one I miss the most is Mana Burn. Now, you can probably say, that's because you play a warrior, you're not affected by it. I liked, though, how good Mana Burns could end a game very, very quickly. To a degree, I like how long and nail-biting and edge of your seat some of the arena matches can get nowadays. But I also like having classes that are set up in a position to where they can end the game quicker if they're good. I liked the skill cap that it added to the game. I liked seeing that in the game. And it was something very cool that priests could really only do for the longest time. And so having Mana Rift as a spell back, kind of cool. On a 10-second cooldown, 20-yard range, just do some damage and destroy some of the target's mana. So very cool concept. Happy to see it back, and it makes sense to me for a Demon Hunter. So very cool to see that in the game. I think that's a little bit of an up from Rushing Vault, that's for sure. And then we have Awaken the Demon Within, which I did say was removed, but I misspoke. I do apologize. I meant that it was just moved over. It is Pinning Glare that was removed. Pinning Glare just really wasn't as effective as they were hoping. Didn't really like how it was working, so they said, forget it, we'll just add some more fun talents. And I will say overall that this tier does look a lot more fun. So, Demonic Origins new, Mana Rift new, Awaken the Demon just bumped over a couple. So, Rushing Vault and Pinning Glare gone. Now we have Detainment. Basically, Imprison can now be used on humanoids and beasts, and targets become human to damage and healing while imprisoned. That's out as it is on live. The new version is that Detainment is Imprison's PvP duration is increased by 1 second, and targets become immune to damage and healing while imprisoned. Cooldown lasts 30 seconds. Or yeah, cooldown increased to 30 seconds. So there's that. Because where to go? That was another thing that was kind of a big deal. Imprison now is just being flatlined, just buffed to work on pretty much all targets. So we got a beast, humanoids, or demons. Instead of taking the talent, they just included that in and added a talent that increases its functionality and changes its functionality. So I like this a lot better. It felt a little silly to take a talent that made one of your CC abilities be actually effective. So I do like the changes coming to that. It adds a little bit more utility to Demon Hunters. And of course, then just to build on top of that, Detainment's just been altered to effectively change with the spell itself. So it could be very interesting to see how that works out. Either way, I'm very happy to see Imprison changed as it works mechanically. So it's kind of cool to see some CC coming aside from Chaos Nova and then Metamorphosis stuns for Demon Hunters. Then we have Rain from Above, which is staying in the game, which is cool because it's a very cool ability. I like it. I'm looking forward to unlocking it on my Demon Hunter. I haven't quite got her fully decked out in honor levels yet, but we've got Rain from Above, 1 minute cooldown, 1 minute cooldown, cool, and then you fly into the air, out of harm's way. While floating, you gain access to Fell Lance, allowing you to deal damage to enemies below. Same exact concept. Doesn't say anything about the damage really being nerfed or buffed, so we'll have to wait and see. But I like that it's staying in the game because it is a cool concept, and I haven't got to play around with it, so I really want to mess around with it. And then Mana Break. That is being buffed. We have it now on a 1 minute cooldown as opposed to the 1.5 minute cooldown. Deals a 210% of attack power. This is on live. Chaos damage plus an additional 1% of the target's health in chaos damage per 2 seconds of the target's missing mana. So we got some nice buffs coming there to Mana Break. Is that right though? 210% attack power. That feels like it's. Yeah, I think they're just changing it. So we got 1 minute cooldown, deals 20% of the target's maximum health in chaos damage, which is a big deal. And then damage is increased the lower the target's current mana up to 70% of the targets. So it looks like they just simplified the tooltip on it and changed the cooldown, which is cool by me. Spells are easier to understand, easier to read over, then I think that's better overall. No sense in overcomplicating things if it's not necessary. 1 minute cooldown, very cool though. And I do like just the flat 20% damage, and then damage goes up based on how much mana is missing. So cool, again, really cool. I like stuff like this because Demon Hunters are one of the few classes right now that have the interrupt that rewards you for playing it well. Like, you can just cast your silence on someone and it silences them for a little bit, whatever. But if you can, again, we've talked about this before actually, but if you can lock someone out like mid-cast and not get faked as a Demon Hunter, it rewards you by giving you Fury. Like, that's the kind of gameplay stuff I like to see as a Demon Hunter, because it's very exciting when I get a reward, when I, like, interrupt something. Let's say I'm fighting a Warlock, and I get the really slick clutch interrupt on that big fatty Chaos Bolt that he's just waiting to throw at me. He's excited, he's casting, and all of a sudden, nothing, right? Cool. Because I played better than him, I get rewarded by getting more resources, which means I get to beat the crap out of him, okay? It's just a cool mechanic, and so Mana Break is one of those things where I like that as well, because if you can catch a healer or a caster at low mana, it's going to punish them, and I like that. I like that a lot. It makes me really happy that I chose Demon Hunter as an alt. Overall, pretty excited about the changes, personally. Whether or not that will make Demon Hunters competitive in PvP, I still don't know. I don't know if I have enough confidence in my opinion to say one way or the other, but I'm definitely going to still be playing my Demon Hunter. And I do think you'll see that Demon Hunters will be still in a good place damage-wise, which is great because, again, that's what they do. Damage. Lots of AoE damage. And overall, very happy to see the Metamorphosis talent coming. Or, sorry, the Demonic Origins talent coming that affects your damage outside of Metamorphosis by 10%. Overall, very cool stuff coming for Demon Hunters. Looking forward to continuing to dump time and artifact power into the weapons just to get better with her and just learn the class more. But that's pretty much going to do it for this video, guys. If I missed anything, please let me know. Again, I was trying to keep this as quick and concise as possible. Kind of a crash course going over the changes to abilities, talents, PvP talents, all that stuff. Let me know what you think of the Demon Hunter changes down below if you play Demon Hunter. Really would love to hear what you guys have to say, what your input is. And are you enjoying Demon Hunter so far in the expansion? So, anyways, as always, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And as always, I'll catch you next time.